The Option key, the Shift key, and the Command key can be very powerful modifiers when dealing with the mixer window in Pro Tools. Let's start with the Option key. Let's say that on this track, I want to set the fader to 0. All I have to do is hold down the Option key and click the fader. There, 0. Likewise, with the pan pot, all I have to do is hold down the Option key and click the pan pot. The Option key can also be used to do the same thing to all the tracks at the same time. For example, you'll see that my input for all of the tracks is set to No Input. If I hold down the Option key and select any track's input to be Interface 1, all the tracks are set to Input 1. Likewise, if I want to solo all of the tracks, I could hold the Option key and click any of the solo buttons. Let me turn that off with an Option click. Or even the Mute button. Option key, Mute. And I'll turn that off with an Option click. This will also work with the Record Enable, the Input Monitor, the Output Assignments, etc. As well, if I wanted to assign a plugin on the same insert row on every track, I could hold down the Option key, go to any track and assign a plugin. There, every track now has a trim plugin assigned in the same insert row. Finally, the Option key can be used to select and deselect tracks very easily. If I hold down the Option key and click on any track name, all of the viewed tracks are selected. Similarly, if I click again with the Option key held, all the tracks are deselected. This works on the mixer itself and on the track list to the left. I Option click, all tracks are selected. Option click again, all tracks are deselected. If I move my mouse over to the left and Option click on the track Show Hide indicators, all tracks can be hidden simultaneously. And with another Option click, all tracks can be shown simultaneously. Now let's look at the Shift key. If I want to select several tracks in a row, I would use the Shift key. Let's say I want to select from this guitar track all the way down to this guitar track. If I hold the Shift key and just click this last track, it will select every track between the first and last track I've clicked. This also works in the track list. If I hold the Shift key and click on this track, I get an additional selection all the way down to that track. If we combine the Shift and the Option key modifiers, we get the same effect as if we were using the Option key modifier, but only on the selected tracks. This is because we are also using the Shift key modifier. Here's an example. Let's start by Option clicking these selected tracks so that we deselect all tracks. Now I'm going to select this track and hold Shift down to this track. If I want to take these 4 tracks and I want to set all their faders to 0, I can hold the Option and Shift keys and click on any one fader. Just those 4 selected tracks will have their faders set to 0. Let's also say that I want to remove the trim plugin from these 4 tracks. I can simply hold down the Option and Shift keys and take any one of those inserts and set it to No Insert. Just those 4 tracks have their inserts removed from that insert row. Also, as you might expect, when holding down the Option-Shift combination and clicking any one mute button, all 4 of these selected tracks will mute. Let me turn that off, and I'll show you the same thing happens with the solo button. Finally, let's look at a few handy things we can do with the Command key. First of all, the Command key will let us discontiguously select tracks. Let's start fresh by Option clicking these selected tracks so that no tracks are selected. Now, let's start by selecting this track, and now I'll hold down the Command key, and I can discontiguously select additional tracks. Now, with these discontiguously selected tracks, I could use the same functions I've previously shown you with the Option and Shift keys to affect just those tracks. For example, let's assign a compressor plugin to just these selected tracks. I'll hold Option and Shift, and on a free insert row, I'll select a compressor. And I get a compressor plugin just on those selected tracks. Another very handy thing you can do with the Command key is assign incremental inputs and outputs on tracks. Let's take a look at that. Again, we'll start by Option-clicking a selected track to clear all of our selections. Now I'll select a range of tracks by clicking the first track and Shift-clicking down to this track. Now, if you notice, you'll see that all the inputs are set to input 1. Let's say that I want all these inputs to be set to buses, but I want it to be bus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, sequentially. The way to do this is hold the Shift key, which will tell Pro Tools that I only want to affect the 6 tracks that I've selected, add the Option key, which will tell Pro Tools that I want to do the same type of thing to the tracks I've selected, and add the Command key, which will tell Pro Tools that each affected value should be increased by 1 on each track. When I now go to the first track and select bus 1 as the input, you will see that each track has been assigned a bus input starting at 1 up through 6 sequentially. Although these commands are very useful, the changes they make can't be undone simply by using the undo command. So don't forget to save your session before you execute any of these functions in case you make a mistake.